In an exclusive story tonight, last week we got the chance to get to know Paul Aragon, a man who was once addicted to drugs but is now actually helping others. However, as we got to know more of Paul's story, we learned that his battle against drugs never really truly ended, even after he got clean.
Yeah, it's been a long journey of helping people.
Just inside of this store on the corner of South Fir and West 10th Street in Medford is Paul Aragon, working hard and diligently to help those addicted to drugs find a better life for themselves. But if you haven't stopped in to get to know Paul, you may not know his incredible yet painful story of how he got to where he is today.
I was an addict myself for over 20 years, addicted to methamphetamines and alcohol.
For Paul, it all started when he was just 9 years old, when he took his first sip of alcohol to try and cover the pain of a traumatic childhood. And as he got older,
by the time I was 14 years old, I was a blackout alcoholic. And then at the age of 16 years old, I stuck a needle in my arm for the first time.
What were those years like for you?
They were hell.
The problem only got worse. Going from juvenile halls to jail, Paul battled through his addiction to drugs and alcohol for more than 20 years before he finally had enough.
I decided that at that point, because I had a son that was 6 months old and another one that was 2.5 years old, and so I had made a choice at that point to stop.
Shortly later, Paul began to take the steps to better his life by getting into the profession to help those who were once in his shoes. But years later, the same drug-filled past that once impacted him found its way into his stepson.
Tristan started using heroin at the age of 17 years old.
And just 7 years later, one day before Tristan was set to go into rehab,
on May 17th of 2021, Tristan had died from a fentanyl overdose.
What was that moment like when you had heard the news?
My wife and I were having dinner when we got the phone call that he had overdosed, and my wife dropped to her knees and started crying, and I wrapped my arms around her, and I knew exactly what it was right away.
Paul and his family, devastated by the news, couldn't help but be reminded that this was now the second child that they had lost to drugs in less than a month.
Her daughter was on her way home from dinner with a friend, and somebody came high on large amounts of methamphetamines and over the legal limit of alcohol, came into oncoming traffic and hit my daughter head on.
For the last year, Paul and his wife have tried to remember and honor their children's lives as best as they can, but the pain continues to resurface.
We have a lot of bad days and a lot of good days, and we just try to adjust our emotions to however we feel when we wake up in the morning.
And for Paul, every day he heads back into work is like a reminder that the impacts of drugs is what killed his two precious children.
It's an emotion that's undescribable, that I come back to the field that killed my daughter and the drugs that killed our son. And it's hard. It is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
But instead of giving up, Paul continues to fight through the pain.
I have a passion for addicts, and I always have, since the day I got clean and sober. And I know that my daughter and my son would want me to continue on in this field, and continue to change lives and fight the war on drugs. And so I continue to do that.